Owning a home is part of the American dream, but in a hot housing market like Western Washington right now, that can feel almost impossible.
A lot of people talking about this, so many questions. So joining us this morning with some pointers for potential homeowners is our financial coach, Carrie Wallingford. Carrie, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So hard to buy a house these days in this market. It's just
crazy.
Very hard. Yeah. So as a first-time home buyer, how much do you need for a down payment on a home, realistically?
So that can depend on, first of all, if you're a veteran. I always like to mention that first. Veterans can come up with zero down. They can buy a home with zero down. Their financing costs are going to be 2.5%. So the more they come up with as far as a down, the better for them. And it's also important that they know that there's a quadruple fail rate on those homes. The second is the first-time home buyer can have anywhere from 20% down, traditional mortgage, or 3%. You can do an 80-10-10, which is a really great way for a first-time home buyer to save up 10% of the value of the house, take an 80% first mortgage and 10% second mortgage. Then they can avoid the mortgage insurance that adds to that mortgage payment. You have to figure that all out.
Interesting. Never heard that before. Okay.
So as a first-time home buyer, how much can I afford as a payment?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. And do it smart, right? You can't
absolutely.
Just blow it all.
No, and so a lot of people say, well, I can afford my wife's income as our house payment. That's sketchy if you're not done having children, because she might not work for a few months during the year. If you have college debt that you haven't started paying on, that all of a sudden becomes payment due when you've got this big mortgage, that's another problem. So we need to think about how much consumer debt, student loan debt, what your family plans are, and really do a good strategy of a plan that fits. I usually recommend 30% as the value of the loan to your income is the most. Now, banks will loan up to 50%, but if you're in a 20% tax bracket, then you only have 30% left to live off of.
We've talked to you for a long time about this kind of stuff. You're always saying, go easy, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Be smart about
you can always buy a bigger
debt.
house as your income grows and as you get out of debt. But a good strategy will allow you to get into a house sooner than you expect by understanding what you've got available and really what your liabilities are.
Right, okay. And also important to note here before we go, the new tax code is the second mortgage still deductible. That was a big perk before things changed.
Right, so if it is for the acquisition of a home or for the substantial improvement of value in the home, you can still deduct that interest. But it's not as easy as it used to be. You have to show the validation of the purchase, or if you're doing an improvement, you have to show every receipt to make that deductible. Because again, the limits of deductibility on a mortgage are $750,000 moving forward. So if you have a $700,000 loan and you want to do a second, you're only going to be able to deduct $50,000 of it, of whatever second you do. But you can still deduct it, especially when it's the acquisition and you're doing like the 80-10-10 plan. You could deduct it that way.
Okay. Well, lots more on Carrie's website as well. We're going to put more on king5.com. Carrie Wallingford, Wallingford Financial. Thanks for the help. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Carrie.
Stuff.
Thank you,
See
you guys.
next time.